which is, that's like heavy in a good way. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah, like how my tummy feels after I'm stuffed, heavy in a good way.
Mm.
We're saying as a human being, I have certain values that are inherent to me as a person. Sure, people stay okay
Every day.
every day.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to OK Everyday, a podcast about transactional analysis, or TA, and its application. The core belief and basic philosophical position of TA is that I'm okay and you're okay. But we've all experienced times when we felt not okay, when we questioned ourselves, we questioned others in a negative and self critical kind of way. That limits us from experiencing life to the fullest. That's why myself, Alexi, and Jason, a pro in transactional analysis, will dive into how to make us closer to being and feeling okay every day. Interested? Come join us.
So, Jason, as promised in the intro, we're here to talk about transactional analysis.
Indeed, and I'm thrilled to be here to talk about transaction analysis, one of my favorite of all time topics.
As I refer to the pro. So
By the
today,
way,
actually,
Ollie, you didn't put that past me, but I will accept it.
well, should we pass that through lawyers?
No, then that title will be definitely taken away from me, but I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, listen, today we have a plan to talk about the philosophy of transactional analysis. Where do we start when we when we talk about the philosophy of transactional analysis?
Well, it's a core part of transaction analysis, and for anybody interested in getting involved in it, it's something that they really need to know about from the get-go, from the basis of it, uh, and it's something that when I first did my training, took me a little bit to really appreciate the depth of it, because some of the language, as we'll talk about, Ollie, in TA transaction analysis is intentionally seems quite simple, but there's a lot behind it. So understanding, the core philosophy will open up a person's mind to kind of learn transaction analysis a bit easier.
Right. And one of the core philosophies of transactional analysis is I'm okay, you're okay. Very simple, right?
On the surface, indeed. And again, this is one of the ones that took me a while to think, what's actually trying to be said here? You know,
Mm.
um, I get the words, I'm okay, you're okay. It's quite positively focused. I understand it's about me and you and something
Hmm.
about me and you being okay, right? So that's the kind of more simplistic version. But actually, when you drill down into it and you look at the meaning that was put forward by Eric Byrne in particular at the very beginning. He's the main guy behind transaction analysis. What he's talking about is something very fundamental, which is basic human rights.
Mm.
It's based on the Declaration of Human Rights. So when in transaction analysis we say I'm okay, we're saying as a human being, I have certain values that are inherent to me as a person. Worth, value, dignity are some of the main ones. And if I recognize that in myself, that I have that from just being alive, that's very significant, right?
Mm.
Kind of getting a sense that by being human, I have these lovely qualities, worth, value, dignity. And then I live in a world with other humans. So guess what? They have them too. So because everybody else is okay. So if I live the I'm okay, you're okay mindset, then I'm making sure that everybody I interact with, I appreciate as having worth, value, and dignity. And I include myself in that. So that leads to a whole lot of stuff around self-esteem and confidence and actually I would say enjoyment more in life because you don't have to question it. It's there. So from a very simple statement like I'm okay, you're okay, some very, very profound things can come from it as a philosophy, and especially if you live it in your everyday life. Not easy, you know, as I'm sure we'll get into. But as an aspirational philosophy, beautiful. What do you think?
You know what? When you said when I first heard "I'm okay, you're okay," it kind of, well, yes, I'm okay, you're okay. That's kind of it. It sounds very simple, but even now, when you are describing it, such loaded words, if you may, kind of come out of this. If you unpack it, it's worth, self-worth, value, dignity, self-esteem, confidence. Even the word philosophy kind of all comes down to "I'm okay, you're okay." So there's a lot to unpack there generally. And if you ask me what I think again the words are very much understandable, but kind of understanding what goes into that took a while. It took a long while to understand. Okay, so I'm okay, which means sometimes I translate as I respect myself and I respect the person in front of me or the people that I'm interacting with. So kind of respect also comes to mind as a word that kind of goes into that. But when by the way, when we talk about "I'm okay, you're okay," right? Or let's talk about "I'm okay." When do you know that you're not okay? How do you know that?
Yeah, well, this is a great question, because this is where some of what you described there, around self-respect and self-worth as a value to hold is fantastic. But sometimes we lose sight of even our own values, or they get challenged. So I might even hold a value of, I want to be compassionate to others, but then I slip under stress. I might slip into treating either myself as not okay or somebody else as not okay by being much less compassionate.
Mm.
This is where it gets a bit difficult at times to kind of live and breathe it every day. So when either I don't feel okay, or sorry, it's not even feel, when I don't treat myself as okay, uh, I know that because I'm not feeling good. I'll be feeling bad in some way. Something be going on inside of me that's giving myself a hard time. I might be very self-critical, for example. So I might be judging myself, criticizing myself based on something I did or didn't do well enough. Even calling myself names. If I call myself a name, then I'm definitely not treating myself as okay.
Mm.
And equally, if I extend that to somebody else, if somebody else has done something that I didn't like, and I start kind of really ripping into them, then actually I'm not treating them as okay. I'm not seeing their worth, value, and dignity as a person, which is much bigger than any particular task at any particular time.
Right.
Have you come across that yourself?
Yes. Um, I think it's one of the questions that I had, and I'll ask it to you later,
Mm.
is more on the application side of "I'm okay, you're okay," but also I'll partially kind of answer it now. And how do you identify that you're not okay? So when is the point when you say, "Oh, might that might be the case," or "I might not be treating myself as okay"? And a lot of the time, in the moment, close to impossible sometimes, especially when you're not aware of it. You've been with transactional analysis for how long now?
Oh goodness, be careful! I'm going to give you my age. I would say probably at least 25 years.
There you go, 25 years. So it kind of you've got a wealth of experience of identifying these moments. And for example, for someone who doesn't, who's just being introduced to the concept of "I'm okay, you're okay," what's the way to identify, oh, look into this particular scenario, or look into this, and this may be the case where you're not treating yourself okay. So that's the what do you think would be kind of the advice to anyone that might be experiencing this?
Yeah, in a way, your stress levels will give you a clue, right? So if you're feeling very tense and very, very stressed, and you notice that you're getting more stressed because of some thoughts or some stories that are going on in your head, chances are some of the stories that are going on in your head are quite negative, and you might be directing some of that negativity towards yourself or towards somebody else. Now, if that continues, then that's when you slip into the not okay place. You start to judge
Mm.
yourself unfairly, or start to judge other people unfairly. When you do that, and when I say unfairly, you're not taking into consideration their full self, all of their experience. You're just judging them on not performing in some areas, for example. That's an indication where you've slipped into not okay.
No.
Judging, labeling them, wanting to get rid of them in some way, that they're useless or whatever. Oop, no, those words will be the ones that will be indicating that you're not being okay on some level.
Oh, I know that feeling. I know those feelings.
Well, that's it.
It's
Everybody does, actually. Like, it's a human phenomenon. This is why I'm okay, you're okay as a foundation to come back to is beautiful.
And I think one thing you said is kind of resonated a lot with me is judging self and others, and maybe sometimes even putting blame to particular things, which I realize the answer to my own question by myself would be I know that I'm not okay when I'm finding someone to blame.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of when something's happened, I feel it's been unfair, or for myself, or for someone else. But then I'm trying to find someone to blame. I know, not okay, dude. You have to look into that. What's up?
Yeah.
Where can you calm down? Where can you feel okay about yourself and about someone else in this particular situation?
Yeah. And I'm sure in a later episode we'll talk about the blame game because it is a game, and it's really well worth knowing about, and getting out of as soon as possible.
This is one of the things I know we're going to talk about it later, but the games in transaction analysis,
Mhm.
the games rarely have a winner, right?
Correct. Yeah, and we'll get into the explanation of that later on in particular. But yeah, there aren't any winners when there's a psychological game being played. You know, but actually, if we think about the next kind of philosophical principle or assumption in
Sure.
transaction analysis, which is everyone has the capacity to think. So we can actually slip into treating other people as not okay by forgetting that they have a fine brain. They're able to think for themselves. Right? So sometimes, unconsciously or not intentionally, we might slip into treating somebody else as not okay because we're giving them advice unsolicited, or
Right.
we're treating them in a way that's maybe a little bit belittling, because we're forgetting that they have this fantastic brain with lots of experience and they're a whole person, right? Does that make sense? How we can
Um,
treat somebody as not okay by not remembering the second philosophical principle, which is everybody has the capacity to think for themselves.
I think when I read the second principle of everyone has the capacity to think, the first thought was, well, yeah, kind of. It's like with I'm okay, you're okay. Well, yeah, kind of. What are you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
Uh, and then again, when it's being unpacked slightly, that's where it kind of comes to play. Is that even when a person gives you advice without you asking for that advice, is like, what's happening? Why are you telling me something that I didn't ask for? And that does kind of feel like you're being treated as not okay.
Mm, mm,
I would agree with you there. But how do you and please direct me if this is not in the scope of, say, this part of the
mm,
philosophy. So, and everyone has the capacity to think, which from a perspective puts everyone as equal. Everyone has the capacity to think.
mm.
What if other people think differently? How does TA approach that?
Well, see, that's a brilliant question because it's really at the heart of I'm okay, you're okay,
Hmm.
which is respecting that other people think differently.
Right.
You know, within TA, we're very conscious that although you might see somebody now in the present, they have a whole life experience already behind them that you may not know very well. So they've got their own family of origin, they've got their own education, they've got their own cultural experience. So when you're treating somebody as okay, you're bringing that into account. So you're accounting
Right.
for their personal history. So if somebody thinks differently, that's okay because they're thinking that way for particular reasons, and I just need
Hmm.
to respect that, right? So
Right.
it's not from if I start judging them for thinking a particular way without considering why they think that way, then I'm moving into not okay behavior. So
Hmm.
when I think so, I might be uh, unconsciously being disrespectful of their opinion,
Right.
even though it might differ from mine, and it might differ from mine significantly. But if I respect that they have their own capacity to think, they've got their own background and culture and experiences that have brought them to whatever thinking, then
Hmm.
I'm more open to being able to work with them to find out more about why they think that way,
Hmm.
and create an understanding. And if I can create an understanding with them, I'm treating them as okay. And if my thoughts are quite different, through that process, they might come to appreciate my different thoughts, my different opinions.
Yeah, it's again bringing that wealth of experience, bringing that worth and value of all the people combined together that you're interacting with in I want to say unison. Maybe it's because of the guitars, but but into some kind of ensemble again. Maybe because of the guitars. I don't know.
Well, no, that's interesting, because even if you use that analogy of the guitars, you're quite right. If I have the philosophy of trying to treat everybody as okay as well as myself, and if I disagree with them on a particular point without judging them, and we're being open to trying to figure out why they think this way, actually we come more into what's known as harmony. So we're resonating a bit better together, even though we may have quite different political views, quite different opinions on lots of stuff. We're a little bit more in harmony as humans because we can respect each other's opinions.
Right. And I think what came to mind as well is that I love this phrase, and I try to come back to it as often as I can. And it's one of the values in the company I work with in Google. Uh, you can disagree without being disagreeable, or so it kind of it shows that you don't have to agree with everything that's being said, but you can be respectful while disagreeing. And in some way, that also shows that respect for a capacity for another person to think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, for example, if I agree with everybody, even though really I don't, I'm not being okay to myself, right? But if I, like you're saying there, if I disagree in a disrespectful way, then I'm also not being okay because I'm not
For
respecting
someone
another
else.
person's opinion. So that's a great example, Ali. Great example.
What do you say we move to the next
The
philosophical
third one.
principle? The third one, which is that's like heavy in a good way. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah, like how my tummy feels after I'm stuffed. Heavy in a good way.
Ooh, yeah. So it's people can decide their own destiny, and these decisions can be changed.
Yeah, that's a biggie. And that I'll be honest with you, when I first came across that, I questioned it. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean by destiny? And like faith? What are you thinking people's life is sketched out already, and it's interesting. The more you get to know TA, and we'll probably talk about it in a podcast at some episode at some stage around scripting. To a degree, actually, yeah, psychologically, we do have an unconscious story that we're working to, right? Which can lead us to a particular type of destiny unconsciously, whether, we kind of just play it out through the decisions we make. But the second half of that phrase is, actually, we've got capacity to change it. Whatever way we thought we ought to be, based on things we were told as kids or based on the culture we grew up in, whatever the influences were, we can change it.
Right.
We've got the freedom of thought and action to change it. And that's when I got the second part, I really got, yeah, okay, literally okay. That makes me more okay that I can change where I'm going, regardless of where I'm from, regardless of my gender, or even the gender I was born into. I've got capacity to make changes if I'm aware of what's going on for me and what's possible.
Right.
Quite deep in a way, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I think there are two words that kind of I circled out when I was looking through the third paradigm or third philosophy of TA. It's decide and change. So it's like the decision, it kind of puts the person in the steering wheel, if you may, of the car that they're driving, of the vehicle that they're driving, and saying that you can decide what way you want to go, and you can decide which route, what's the destination basically, and which route you want to take there. And you can go the longer route, you can go the shorter route, you can go whatever route you want, but that's up to you. And again, coming back to the second point, if everyone has the capacity to think, then again, it's up to them, their thoughts, and they have the ability to do that, to go through that way and to get to the destination that they want to be at.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's an awful lot of stuff that sits behind that in TA because we're not fully aware of all our thoughts. So we have a lot of unconscious influences. So we might think, oh, yes, I'm making a decision that I'm very clear about. When actually, there might be a whole lot of emotional content behind that decision that you don't know yet because you haven't taken the time to sit down and work it through. And TA provides lots of different models to be able to do that, to get to know yourself an awful lot better. Because a couple of the outcomes from working with TAs is self-awareness. So getting to know the influences that you don't already know, so you're more conscious of how you want to be in your life.
Yeah, true. To be honest, some of those unconscious thoughts that you were talking about, when I kind of register them, I sometimes think I'm not okay. But then
Exactly.
it's just because they come up in waves, and you kind of, where did that come from? And it's like, am I sure that I'm okay? I think I might. So cutting myself a bit of slack sometimes is also a very good way of reminding myself that I'm okay.
Brilliant. In a conscious way, because you touched on something really powerful there, Ollie, because it can just pop up. We can, like, these unconscious thoughts can just kind of come in and flood us a bit to make us feel not okay, or seduce us into thinking we're not okay, or somebody else is not okay. And we can combat it by coming back to this. No, I am okay, and what I'm doing is okay, and my what I'm striving to achieve is okay. Because one of the other things about TA, whenever you work, say, with a TA analyst, it's usually goal orientated towards change in some way, but that change has to be healthy, and has to be healthy. It's healthy for you and healthy for others.
Yeah.
To make sure people stay okay
Every day.
every day.
There you go. And listen, so these are the three philosophies of TA which we attempted to cover today. I'm okay, you're okay. Everyone has the capacity to think, and people can decide their own destiny, and these decisions can be changed.
That's it.
While all very simple on the surface, a lot to be unpacked going forward, and this is definitely something that we'll be doing in later sessions, going deeper into TA. By the way, to the folks listening to all of this, hopefully you had some insights coming there, but what I wanted to remind you is there's a link in the description of why we're doing this. Hit the like and subscribe button. To the new YouTubers that we're learning what things to say at the end of a video. So we'll get better in that going forward. But yeah, join us, and if you have any questions, we've got the comment section. Pop a question there, we'll be happy to answer. Thanks for your attention.